not be at all surprised. In fact, I think it's probably likely that that is in fact happening.
You think it's likely happening that humanity itself is being changed forever by this round of mRNA vaccines?
Yes, I do. And that's based on, just the things that I just said and the fact that it is possible. So again, the question is it actually happening? And frankly, my instinctive feeling is that totally it's happening. The extent to which it's happening, the degree to which it's happening, any particular lots for which it's worse or sort of less prominent. And those are questions that should be characterized. But if I had to place a bet on what the likely answer to that question is, yeah, I do think that it's probably happening. I think it would be right in step and in sync with every terrible, horrible thing that we've seen happen during the pandemic as a result of people abandoning common sense, abandoning reason, abandoning humanity in pursuit of whatever their ideological or profit-fueled or greed-based or greed-fueled desire is. Yeah, I think it would be quite consistent with that.
Well, I'm shocked, but I guess I'm not that shocked. So let me say something I've never said to anybody, but I just noticed, and it always has felt a little crackpot to me, so I've never expressed it. Do you think it's possible that after getting the mRNA shot, that people's personalities might change in ways that you would notice?
We're going to enter a spiritual domain here, Tucker. So I am, as you know, I went to medical school at Harvard. I got a PhD while I was in medical school. I had multiple NIH grants, did research full-time along with taking care of patients before entering this position as Surgeon General of Florida.
I need to go to Florida.
DeSantis. And I've got to tell you that, during the pandemic, you'd sometimes hear people say that this is a spiritual war. And it's a funny thing for people to say.
Because they understand.
Instinctively and intuitively, I remember the first time I heard it sort of yelled out in the middle of a press conference with Governor DeSantis out here in, Bradenton, Florida. I responded immediately that yes, to the person in the audience who said yes, it is a spiritual war. And it absolutely is. And this has to do with intuition. Again, I've left the MD, PhD hat, and I'm talking just as a human being and someone who, like many of us, guide their lives based on how they feel, what they feel about what truth is and what resonates. And I got to tell you that truly, I think in terms of the toll, we've heard different estimates for their potential contribution to excess mortality. I think that probably is the case, that they contribute. And I think that is just a part of what is, frankly, bad and evil behind the intention of these mRNA COVID-19 vaccines and the whole entire pandemic policy approach. And I got to tell you that I do believe that it totally can change things that you would not expect to change from people just taking a typical vaccine like the flu vaccine.
So not just their physical health, but also their mental state. I mean, I guess why wouldn't it?
Right. Yeah. And I actually wouldn't say so much mental. And again, we're this is Joe, the dad and the husband and the man speaking with you here. But there's unfortunately there's absolutely an evil underlying frequency to these products. And, it's something that I felt early, but just over time and frankly, with my own spiritual development and spiritual growth and power in terms of my connection to, God and other people and just to the gifts that God gives each of us, and with each of us having different degrees of access to those
But
gifts.
you didn't say Jesus.
Because of our journeys in life.
Interesting.
These mRNA COVID-19 vaccines, and I'm not talking
but
about
you are telling the truth, so
I'm
I'm going to let you slide on
it. I'm talking about
it.
other technologies.
Just for a
I'm
second.
talking about these particular products. Unfortunately, yes, early on, no doubt. Were they effective at reducing illness from COVID-19? Yeah, the data were very strong. Now it's completely unclear. There's data that actually points the opposite direction in terms of negative effectiveness and lots of other problems. But despite what they may have provided in terms of benefits specifically targeted toward COVID-19 illness or death, they have caused much worse in terms of not only adverse events, but also, again, at a spiritual level, there's something that I intuitively am certain is wrong with this particular technology and these particular products.
Well, of course, I couldn't agree more. But back just briefly to the public policy questions around this. So, one, didn't the U.S. government, the Biden administration, the Trump administration before them, have an obligation to tell the population, to tell the world, this product that we're going to force you to take could change your DNA, or that foreign DNA is going to enter your cells? I mean, because I think we know that to be true, and I don't believe
Absolutely.
I've been trying to tell people this since the beginning of this thing. Y'all thought I was crazy.
You're right. Pardon me. And it goes back to the Trump administration and Dr. Fauci and other people who were involved in.
So what y'all trying to spin out?
And it goes all the way back there. And again, Tucker, I think what helps make this make sense, a sad sense, is that you look back at the forces. I mean, incredibly powerful forces that were exerted and projected on the earth, and and the populations on this earth at the start of this pandemic, incredibly powerful forces in terms of their imposition of a view about how to approach the pandemic that consumed everything. And part of what it consumed was common sense. Part of what it consumed was prudence. Part of what it consumed was good judgment. And part of what it consumed was human-centeredness. Part of what it consumed was heart-centeredness. And so when you have all of those things happening, then stuff that's obvious, like, there's DNA, and now it's with lipid nanoparticles, so it's not like other vaccines. This is DNA that is almost certainly going to make it into your cells. Billions of fragments of it with each dose. And this is not even mentioning the SV40 enhancer promoter DNA that was part of Pfizer's, that is a specially bad type of DNA in terms of entering people's cells. Those are obvious questions, but with all those forces that were exerted, and unfortunately no force that was loud enough and strong enough to counterbalance it, there were people that of, I mean, I was one of them too, who early on were saying, this doesn't make sense, slow it down, slow your roll, let's think about things, let's be sensible, let's be human-centered. Those voices were no match at that time for the forces that were being exerted and pressed onto the consciousness of the population. And so basic important things never got asked, like, what do you do when you close the lockdown? What does it mean when you stop kids from being able to play outside? What does it mean when you stop young people from being able to pursue their dreams and their education and whatever other pursuits they have in mind? Those things were squeezed out because of the forces that were in place.
Really one of the most shocking conversations I've ever had in my life. The Surgeon General of Florida, Dr. Joseph